There we go. All right, great. So he's an accomplished executive with over two decades of experience. You can't quite tell. He looks still quite vibrant and young, mostly across global enterprises and high growth startups. He's the senior startup solutions architect lead at AWS. He's a strategic force in the meta startup ecosystem, directly influencing technical strategy, trajectory, and emerging unicorns. Nicholas brings a combination of deep technical expertise with over 8+ AWS certifications and also entrepreneurial experience with multiple successful ventures. I'm actually interested to hear about that a bit, Nicholas. And he has an amazing track record. He can speak English, French, and Arabic. You could maybe teach us a few words or two on that. And yeah, beyond that, Nicholas, welcome. Glad to have you here today. Excited to see what you're going to talk about. And yeah, excited.
Thank
Karibu,
you.
Nicholas.
Thank you for having me. Hi everyone. As Mark was introducing me, I'm Nicholas. I'm based in Bahrain, which is a small set of island, a small archipelago of island aside from Saudi Arabia and nested next to Qatar. And I help customers in UAE and in Sub-Saharan Africa, hence the multiple visits in Kenya, Rwanda, Nigeria, and South Africa this year. Um, I'm very passionate about what we do, and I love to see the innovation. Like when we spent a week of time in Kenya with our CTO Werner, who was at the last community day in Kenya. Lots of really interesting things, and one of the things that I want to talk about today is Amazon Q Developer. If you're not familiar with Amazon Q Developer, it's an AI agent, really, a very powerful one that can help you in multiple ways. And this is what we'll see today by starting to talk about generative AI and AWS, our generative AI stack, quote unquote. Then we'll talk about Q Developer in greater length with its key features, how you can leverage Q Developer for the best. And then the idea is not only to use QDeveloper, but also discuss how QDeveloper can help you operate on AWS, right? And then we'll see how to get started. But somewhere in there, there's going to be a couple of demos. If let's do a quick poll, really. By quick show of hands, I know there's a tool in Zoom for this. Who is a PHP developer by quick show of hands? I think it's this particular icon in the reactions, like this. Anybody developed works as a developer for PHP or has touched PHP? Maurice knows PHP for sure. And so I'm going to show you a few things around PHP today, but also a few things around COBOL, which is a lot older than myself, but also a very important piece of technology that we like to call the technical debt, which needs to be moved to newer technologies, and we'll see how Q Developer can help on this stage. And so without further ado, let's talk about the generative AI stack at AWS. We call it a stack because there is literally three layers that we have identified, from infrastructure to tools and models to build applications, and then applications to boost productivity, which is where QDeveloper will sit as part of the software development lifecycle enhancements. And so if we start from the bottom, the infrastructure, there is a bunch of compute power, of GPU power, which we call high performance compute, that will help you train your models and eventually run inferences on those models. But if we simplify it, crunch numbers. Yeah. And then to be able to use this power, to harness this power in the best of ways with the frameworks that you used to, SageMaker, Amazon SageMaker is there from a managed perspective and a cost-effective manner to allow you to build and train your AI models. Customers use managed services like SageMaker and high-performance services to quickly and cost-effectively, again, build and train their AI models. As we move up the ladder, we need to understand that most of this infrastructure has this managed term in infrastructure. Managed means that you don't use your hands to make sure it works as it's supposed to. You just use it. And you will see that very same way of dealing with services in AWS, which are managed services. If we talk about RDS, for example, which is a relational database service, RDS, you will use the database and not worry about backups. It's just a tick box away with a time slot in the day that you will need to use to be able to allow us to say, we'll back up this database in this location automatically. Same goes for minor version updates, or same goes for high availability. On RDS, this is pretty straightforward, and it's managed for you, hence the name managed service. In SageMaker, we manage the infrastructure below. You just have to use the capacity. You could use that via different ways, in an automated way with a MLOps pipeline, or you could use it with a little bit more hands-on, where you start the instance and you start using it from the terminal or maybe from notebooks with Jupyter notebooks to drive that the usage of that instance forward. Then again, we move up the ladder and we talk about the tools that we're needing, allowing customers to build generative AI apps. And so Bedrock is one of them. And this is really cool in this layer because you are able to use the base models that are available by default in Bedrock, or you can use partner models that are maybe from a marketplace, or maybe you want to use a specific model and custom train it. All of this is available through Bedrock with a bunch of tools that allow you to control the context, such as Amazon Bedrock guardrails, and maybe some other tools that allow you to create agents. As we move up the last tier, the top layer, you have applications that customers can use to boost their productivity, for example, with Q Business, which gives you insights and automation around data. If you're thinking about Amazon QuickSight, which is a BI tool, a business intelligence tool, Q Business is going to be sort of embedded in there to allow you to ask stories about your data. What are the best sales for this month for this particular country or this particular salesperson? What's the trend going to be for next quarter if we continue to evolve sales or maybe drop sales from the graphs? All of those features are things that Amazon Q Business can help work on in a very automated way, in a very streamlined way, as you ask natural language questions. Same goes for Q Developer, except Q Developer is going to be more on the SDLC, or the software development lifecycle side, where it's going to be able to help you in a very interesting way when we compare it to other coding agents. And so why do I say this is because many of the developers today spend a lot of time maintaining applications, debugging, versus a little bit amount of time on creating new features, innovating, transforming the experiences of customers. In this report that Gartner shared, we can see that 73% of the developers' time is spent. When I say large amount of time, it's spent on maintaining, right, on fixing bugs, whereas 27% of the time is creating value. And so what we want to do with Amazon Q Developer is to be able to flip that equation to where Q Developer is going to be your sidekick, your superhero, or maybe your superpower. Let's imagine, Amazon Q Developer being a cape to allow you to be a lot more efficient every step of the way in your developer journey. And so how we do this, right? We have a service called Q Developer that is, in my mind, the best in class for security scanning and remediation, and also for proposing the most adequate code, I would say, as it has the highest acceptance rates of any coding assistance that suggests multi-line code with, for example, customers like the National Australia Bank, NAB, that is reporting up to 50% of code suggestions being accepted from Amazon Q Developer, right? Amazon Q Developer is uniquely capable of accelerating that software development lifecycle, that software development journey, far beyond just coding, right? It's capable of, for example, recommending, autonomously planning, and executing multiple step projects, like, for example, building a brand new application feature or modernizing a legacy application, which is what we'll see later on today, those two demos with PHP and COBOL that I talked about earlier. So from writing code to performing advanced upgrades in the IDE to chatting about the best practices of architecture, the well-architected framework in the console, or taking a more end-to-end approach in the terminal, Amazon Q Developer is a well-rounded assistant that will help you in all of the stages of the software development lifecycle journey. And so what do I mean, or what do we mean by SDLC, or software development lifecycle? First of all, when you define what you are going to build in your application, you're exploring and planning, right? Most of the time, you're going to document what you will create, how you will create, and what will work with this particular creation of yours. Then you go on to creation, then you test your creation in, you make sure that everything is secure, that you don't have your secrets embedded in your code. And then once all of that is done, you review the findings and deploy into production. But then the cycle starts all over again by maintaining, transforming, and modernizing. And then you're going to explore and plan for these tasks, create, test and secure, review and deploy. The whole cycle goes over again. Okay? And so here are some ways that QDeveloper will support development across the SDLC. In the explore and plan stage, you can use QDeveloper in the AWS console to ask questions, to get those best practices that I told you about on how to optimize EC2 instances, or how to apply the recommendations from the well-architected framework. In the IDE, in your Visual Studio Code, for example, QDeveloper can help you understand your code base and get up to speed on projects. It will also operate on business-specific chat applications using your internal resources, your own documentation, your own data through Amazon Q Business. In the create stage, Q Developer is there to improve the development productivity through inline code suggestions, right? We're very much used to this nowadays, and it's using natural language to generate new features. For example, I want to have this button to be blue, and when I press it, I want to have a pop-up, okay? And so you can ask Q developers questions right in the IDE, which makes it very straightforward, pretty useful. You don't have to go into many tools, many windows. You just use one and it works immediately. And then in the test and secure stage, well, this is where things get really interesting. Amazon Q Developer helps you ensure that your code is working and is secure through unit test assistance. So you can ask Q Developer to create unit tests for your code, which is very cool. And so it also helps you find security vulnerabilities in the development cycle, but early on, before it goes into the review and the deployment. And it helps you troubleshoot those errors, analyze your VPC reachability, and eventually give better debug and optimization tips. Finally, when we go into the review and deploy stage, it helps you by deliberating, again, automated code review, deployment risk assessments, and it generates documentation, something that is extremely, extremely valuable in IT. And so Q Developer, again, as I mentioned, is available in multiple locations. It's available in the AWS documentation, so you can chat with the AWS documentation. It's available in your IDE. It's available in the console. It's available in Slack and Teams through AWS chatbot. It's also available in GitLab Duo with Amazon Q, and in Kiro, our developer IDE, via the CLI. You can see also today we'll be using the CLI for Amazon Q Developer. It's very, very powerful. So let's go on the key features of Q Developer, right? One of the things that we want to is to help you build faster. And so I have a few videos that I've recorded with one of my colleagues to show you how Q Developer can help you build faster. And so here we are in the explore and plan phase, right? And so in AWS, as of today, there are a lot of services that can help you build literally anything and everything you want. And sometimes when you're building a new project and you're doing that research on which services do I need for my project, what kind of data format will I need, and if this is a key value store or if it is a relational database that I will need, it can be time consuming, right? And so Q developer, once you chat with it in a very human related way, then Q developer will be able to give you those best practices, to give you insights as to whether this database or this other type of database is better for your project. You can chat to explore new AWS capabilities, unfamiliar, I would say, technologies and architect solutions directly in the IDE, and eventually come up with a pricing for that architecture. You can literally say, I'm going to run this application 24/7 with, I'm hoping, 30% utilization on my resources. What's the best cost optimized version of this architecture that I can run? Give me a rundown. And QDev will be able to propose all of this with documented insights in a very streamlined way. And so as we move on to the next, pardon me, the next sort of video demo, um, you can ask a few things, and in the chat window, QDev will be able to show you all of the different options. Here, we're talking about building a web application with AWS. So first, the most cost-effective, most developer-oriented version of the documentation will be create a static website with Amplify. Use HTML, CSS, JavaScript, push that into a bucket. This is very good for most use cases or static content sites. Now, if you need something a little bit more, I would say, complex, you can use AWS Lambda with API Gateway to build serverless backends. You can write code to handle requests and respond without managing servers. Lambda works well for microservices, APIs, and backend processing. So this is 100% accurate, number one. And number two, it's probably a more advanced, way more advanced version of your website, but maybe you can combine option one and option two, and having your front end being static, your back end being more or less working with APIs to allow you to connect to resources, which will interact with maybe third-party data, things of that nature. The next two examples are a little bit more, I would say, old school. 11 years ago, when I joined AWS, one of the first demos that on Elastic Beanstalk, where tool that was used most at the time, supporting only a subset of the programming languages, pardon me, that we use today, but we still use them, right? .NET, Node, Python, and Ruby, supported by Elastic Beanstalk. And the idea is that you provide your code in a zip file using a specific structure that will do all of the deployment for you. Pretty interesting service, pretty cost effective, and uses some of the basic building blocks like EC2 instances. It's the last recommendation where, I don't know if you can see this, but from top where you have literally nothing to bottom, the important. Beanstalk has a little bit more of maintenance on auto scaling, for example, or observability. And then when you're building monolithic or microservices architecture using instances or containers or eventually Lambda, those require a lot more, elbow grease. It's a very hands-on process, but nevertheless, Q will give you all these options so that you can make a comprehensive and sound choice. And so when you reach that create stage, here we're going to show you Q developer directly in your IDE can basically understand your code base and propose new code with a summary of what is it that you have in your repository, what is it that you built, and why it chose to build this the way it built it. QDeveloper understands your workspace structure and breaks down your prompt into logical implementation steps, which can include generating code, generating tests, API, everything. right earlier, it understands your code base. And so let's look at this particular example where QDeveloper performs tasks on your behalf for all of these things that you asked it to do.
Let's have a look at the interactive agentic coding experience from Amazon Q Developer. This is a new feature right inside your IDE, and let's use it to build something really, really neat. Now, I'm going to build a little application, a little Rust application that displays some wonderful colors on the screen. I want it to display all the colors of the Commodore 64 palette horizontally on the screen with a big old black rectangle in the middle. Hmm. Okay, I'll come to the solution, but basically what I'm telling you here, I'm actually telling it in the chat, I want you to build this. And what this interactive feature will allow me to do, it is actually going to go ahead agentically and build these things. What does that mean? It can run commands. Yes, it's using the cargo command here to create a new Rust project. So it can execute bash commands locally. It can read files. It can write files. As you can see, it has created a main file here for me. Now, I'm going to go and let it do its thing. It's thinking now, it's doing all kinds of stuff. It's going to generate code in a second. You will see on my screen, boom, a lot of code being created here. It can also run the build command, and it can also part the results. As you can see, there's an error here, and it's also already working to fix this error. So it's taking that error and now is implementing changes inside of my code to fix it. Excellent. I can compile it here, but I'm going to actually go back to the directory and run this and show it to you how it actually looks like. So cargo build, and look at that in a second. Whoa, colors, colors, beautiful. Love those colors. Now, it's useless for a second, but let's actually add some more features. So with this interactive coding experience, I'm going to add some AWS functionality. I wanted to actually display the amount of S3 buckets I have in my AWS account. I wanted to use the AWS SDK. I wanted to, inside of that,
Oops.
that this inside of the rectangle show me the number of buckets in big ASCII chunky fonts. So I gave it this big old prompt here, and I'm gonna run it again. So let's see how this new feature is good at implementing additional features. It goes again, reads all my files, and starts to implement this code. Again, adding a bunch of stuff, SDK, Tokayo, Figlet. After some thinking, you will see a bunch of new code present inside of my main.rs, which is great. I don't have to copy paste, it's already there. Now, this code looks decent. I know a little bit of Rust, so this looks like it should work. Let's try to compile it. It takes a second for it to compile, so let's just fast forward through this compilation process, and let's see if it runs. There's just a couple of warnings, that's okay, but it seems to compile okay. Let's not run it locally here, and let's go back into my terminal and run it using cargo run. Hopefully, we should get some bucket numbers here. Loading, look at that, 9 buckets. Yes, absolutely, I do have 9 buckets in my personal account, which is great. So that's it. It's a new feature available right here from your favorite IDE inside of VS Code. You can actually disable this feature if you want to go back to your traditional chat feature, but by turning off the agentic coding button there's on the bottom. But yeah, do tell me, what are you gonna build with this?
So as you can see from this video, I don't know if you were hearing very well. I put the sound a little bit louder here, but ultimately, we were able to build an application based on a spec, right? We told it, this is what we want to build. This is how we want it to look. This is the colors that we want. This is the shape in the middle. All little details were explained to Amazon QDev, and we told it we want it in Rust. It built it, and then we added the new feature later on, which is the bucket count with that ASCII display in the middle. So that is, in essence, how powerful QDev is in the IDE. It understands what you want to do. It builds, iterates on the code that it already built, and allow you to, very quickly put together something compelling. And so,
Let's have
oh wait, sorry. Second video, really quickly on this point. hold on one second. Should I? No. Where's the second video? Sorry about this. Okay.
Let's have a look.
No, that was the only video. Sorry. Anyway, so we can, test a bunch of things. We can generate unit testing in the test and secure stage, where again, we're not only going to help you generate code, but also generate a lot of shortcuts for you to be more efficient in the test and secure stage. So here we can talk about unit testing. We can talk about creating documentation, understanding if your code is safe to ship, and QDeveloper will scan for hard to find vulnerabilities. It will also explain to you what is the fix and provide a automatic remediation or manual remediation in cases where you want to have a little bit more control. In the review stage, once the code is reviewed and you need to deploy it into a production environment, well, essentially, QDev will help you understand what are some of the very interesting details about your code. Here in this case, it detected a very high severity issue with API Gateway, and it wanted to basically tell you if, can I fix this, or do you want to fix this? Explain to me why this is a hard or high severity issue. And so this is where, again, I was mentioning QDev can be your sidekick or your superpowers. It's extremely powerful and allows you to save sometimes on the many stages of this this SDLC situation. And so you can use that as well in Kiro, which is the IDE. I know Amos has a question about Kiro. I'll respond to the question after the presentation. But Kiro is an IDE specifically built for developers that is working in two different ways, either vibe coding, so create a website for this, and that, or on spec-driven coding, where you want to plan first and then build. Essentially what we've done with the Commodore application by describing, by explaining bit by bit what the end result should look like, and giving it every single bit of direction in order to be able to provide the expected result in a short amount of time. Let me turn on the light in the room because it's getting a bit dark. And so that is also a very interesting situation with QDeveloper, where there's QDeveloper, as you will see, is going to be available in many places, where Kiro is only in the console, in the IDE, sorry, for development, and in the CLI if you don't want to open your IDE. QDeveloper is also very well integrated with GitHub, which makes it very interesting. You can directly do code reviews on all new pull requests, and that way you're sort of shortening the cycle to sending the code to production. It also helps you implement new features, new tests, generate documentations, or modernize legacy applications directly with GitHub issues. It's a very straightforward a pull issue, and you say, a pull request, sorry, and you say, I want you to implement this feature. QDeveloper will then work towards finding the issue that it needs to fix, understanding the context, and providing the fix. And so in this case, here's a very short video, no audio, I think.
Head over to GitHub to install the Amazon Q developer app. Just choose which repos you would like to enable it on, and you're ready to build. Now, let's head over to a repo, go to an existing issue or create a new issue, and just add a label to assign the issue to either the feature agent or transform agent. Here, I'm choosing the feature agent, and Q quickly starts working on the task. Once it's ready, it will link a pull request. What Q actually did in the background is it created a branch, made the code changes, and then created the PR with a description. And here you can see the files that were changed. Now, if we want to change something in the PR, all I need to do is add comments and request changes like I normally would in a review. This will assign it back to QDev to revise this PR. QDev also automatically runs a code scan, as you can see here, and suggests fixes you can commit right in the PR, all without leaving GitHub.
So essentially, QDev is then now, in another environment, your repository directly. So you can ask it for very interesting things, either in the IDE, in the terminal, in GitHub, or also in the AWS console. Let me show you something really, really quickly on the AWS console. Here is my AWS account, and you can see here on the top right-hand corner, there is this Amazon Q icon. If I click on this one, it's going to ask me to log in a minute with my builder ID. Just give it a bit of time. Here we go. Here's my builder ID. Hopefully, this should work very soon. All right, I'm authenticated. Let's load it up. All right. The example that I showed this week was about cost, right? And I was asking it about why S3 was so expensive this month, $11.72. But maybe let's ask about SageMaker, right? For this one demo. Why is my SageMaker bill so high? And so by asking this question, Amazon Q will sort of interrogate the cost management API, the service API, and then some other APIs to understand what led to this cost being so high. And it also compares that with the Cost Explorer data for the specific period of time that we said. So here it interpreted the cost to be for the period of time between the 10th of October, sorry, the 1st of October and today. And so it's performing some calculation, and within a few seconds, it's going to tell me, here's why, and here's how to remediate it, which is, again, super, super powerful. Many of the things that Amazon QDev will do, I think that's going to be one of the questions that you will ask fairly soon, is, okay, QDev is fantastic, but how much is it? And there's two versions of QDev. One of them that's free, that can do a minimum set of things, and another one that is a little bit more expensive, that is $19 a month. But if $19 a month can help me save here on SageMaker $34.86, that's already an uptake on the $19 that I spent. So here it said, let's go up. Why your SageMaker bill is high is because in this cost, you have a C5 extra large Jupyter instance that is still on for 169 hours at 20.4 cents per hour. You've had heavy usage during this time period, but then nothing happened. So there's some cost optimization recommendation. A, right-size your instances that can help you save between 51 and 76%. So instead of having this big C5 instance, it's recommended a T3 instance, large or medium. You can also implement auto shutdown policies so that when you don't use it, you don't pay for it. The basics of cost optimizations on AWS. You can also optimize your workflow based on the recommendation that it gives. It says that the T3 medium, it's for code development, data exploration with small data set and documentation, whereas the C5, the one that I use today, is for larger data sets, model training, and performance critical computation. And then I think some of the things that are really cool here is to set up cost monitoring to understand, like when we reach different thresholds and $50 monthly, give me a notification. Tell me, hey, dude, you're going to spend a lot of money on this. Is this necessary? And so if you can do this, it would cost about $150 with an optimized cost of $75 to $90 and an annual savings of between $720 and $900. So again, I'm not good in mathematics, but if I do 19 times 12, that's 228. That's only a fraction of the annual savings. Probably a good way to use that saved money into something very interesting. And so the immediate action items are, 1, 2, and 3 based on the recommendations it made above. Very, very cool. You can also ask it all kinds of things on, security groups, for example. Why can't machine A reach the internet? Why can't machine B talk to machine A? Is encryption turned on my bucket where I'm storing data, critical data? Is there any PII that is displayed outside of this environment that you specify. All of these questions, Amazon Q will be able to answer it directly in the console. And so I wanted to show you something very interesting here in terms of the rest of this presentation for how to operate on AWS, right? I showed you that Amazon Q can be in the console, QDev can be in the console, but let's see how, we can further use that, right? We see Amazon Q as your expert, gives you expert guidance in building on AWS based on the best practices. I think I shared the name of the well-architected framework earlier. That's one of the best recommendations. There is documentation and there is implementation best practices. It can also help you with diagnosing and troubleshooting errors, right? Or troubleshooting your bill, for example. QDeveloper can diagnose and troubleshoot errors directly in the console, as well as analyze network connectivity. I think I spoke about the security group situation and VPC reachability. Why can't this machine talk to the internet? It's going to help you manage AWS resources and spend, give you a small demo on this to understand why is my bill so high this month, or why is this particular implementation costing so much where it's supposed to cost so little. All of these things you will be able to manage directly into the AWS console. Another point is transformation of the workloads. And this is where we're going to do a small demo together. Basically, when you fix those bugs, when you implement those new features, or when you migrate code from one version to an application of a framework like PHP, for example, onto a new one, QDev can help a lot. It can do it about 4 times faster with about 40% savings, and it can use a wide range of LLMs. And so today, directly in this particular terminal, it's just a basic terminal. I'm here on my Mac machine. Here we go. I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to, first of all, let's do this one. I'm going to use this PHP 5 library. As you can see, it's not so young anymore. It's in its teens, 14 years old. It's a PHP 5 class that enable your applications to use the Akismet anti-spam service in your application. I really like this and I want to use it, but my application is PHP 8, and some of the security tools that I've used have been complaining about the code being PHP 5. So let's, clone this. Git clone into onto my computer. Here we go. And let's start QDev. So it takes a few seconds. There's a few MCP servers that I've configured, notably to create diagrams or to talk with the documentation. I can access this by using /MCP. And you can see I have an AWS diagram MCP server and an AWS documentation MCP server, which are external things that AWS provides for free. So here, I'm going to tell it to analyze this repository, to understand what kind of a code is it, what language is it using, what does it do, and if there is any documentation, is the documentation, any good? And so it's executing all of these commands in a trusted environment, but as soon as something is a little bit more dangerous, a little bit more, can do harm to your computer or your code, it's going to ask you for permission. You will see that in the next step. So it's done. It analyzed the code and the repository, and it said that it's a PHP 5 Akismet anti-spam library. Okay, it's written in PHP 5. Here's the project structure, right? And I believe it's for PHP 5.3 and above. It's a focused single project library, okay? And what I want to do is I want to convert it to PHP 8.3, remember? So for that, I'm going to use this particular command, convert this code to PHP 8.3, very complex command. And as you can see, it understands the command, it understands what it needs to do, and it's going to start building all of the code conversion in memory. And once it's done and wants to commit to a file, it's going to ask permission because it's going to potentially overwrite something, right? And so it's thinking right now, the code is created, it asks for the permission. I'm going to create a PHP 8.3 version of this class. Do you trust T to always allow this tool for the session? Of course, I trust you, QDev. You're my best bud these days. And so it's going to create the composer.json file. It's going to create the PHP unit test for its code that it's generated as a result of the conversion from PHP 5 to PHP 8.3. And then in a few seconds, it will have created the documentation and start summarizing everything that it did. Just takes a few seconds, but probably way faster than I would be to convert code from PHP 5 to PHP 8.3, for example. Probably faster than anyone in this chat room, really, unless you have some pretty cool tool that I haven't seen before. All right. Here it's going to create examples of usage for the new version that it created and a README file to explain the major differences between version 5 and this version that it created. Okay, the README is completed. Here's the summary. I've created a version 8.3 as a result of a conversion. And these are the key changes made. These are the files that I've created, and you're ready to go. So again, I think we've spent like maybe 3 minutes. Let's be wild here. 3 minutes in asking two questions to understand the context in which QDev can evolve, and two, what is the thing that I want to do, right? I want to convert it from 5 to 8.3. Let's go. I give it permissions to write files, and everything is done. So within a matter of minutes, not something too complex, right? But something relatively easy to implement, I've done this migration from one version to another. Now, this is PHP. You're going to say, oh yeah, it's too easy, man. PHP is super easy. Let's look at another example where I'm going to use this mainframe COBOL code. It's a working application for a credit card management application that basically simulates a credit card management system, right? Similar to what banks are running these days. Well, those that are still using mainframe, of course. And so it gives a bunch of details as to what it is, a lot of schemas of the application flow, and potentially, here we go. These are some application screens of what it does. This is the United States of Kicksland. Very, very cool application. But we've got a bunch of information here. And what we're going to do, same treatment as the other one, but maybe a little bit of a different outcome. So I'm going to clone the repository here. I'm in /tmp, git clone this repository. There we go. So we've got a bunch of files here, a bunch of all of this data, and we're going to launch, again, QDeveloper. The idea in that instead of converting the code, which will take probably forever, because it's such a large code base, what we're going to do is we're going to create an agent to help only Java developers understand COBOL, and with this agent, they will be able to perform actions. Like I want to understand how to create a data schema, sorry, for the data that's coming out of this particular function from the COBOL code. So as always, the first step is to analyze the repository. I want to understand the context in which I'm evolving. And so here, same as earlier, it will read the content, understand what's in it, and give me some sort of a rundown of everything that is in this repository. Again, it's an agent trying to understand the code. This one is quite well documented, but even if it was not that well documented, could be a similar behavior, maybe would take a little bit more time, right? Documentation is essential even for agents. So here, it's basically giving me the rundown of what is in this code. So we could see here that this is, again, a mainframe credit card management application, and that it has some architecture portion, application structure, the data model, where is it? Data model that it's using. And then when we go down, it talks about the modernization value and what is it that this code is. Is it production grade? Is it poorly made? And so here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically ask it to create a new agent who can help with the documentation and translation for my team of modern Java developers. So it's going to analyze the code, and it's going to create an agent, I believe in Python, that my team can run and ask questions about the COBOL code so it can create the Java version of it. Not only this is going to be interesting for this particular use case, but it could be interesting for so many things. For example, let's see. You will see in a minute, you can ask specific documentation around the data model used by a function. You can use this agent, sorry, to tell you what is the structure that you will need to use for this particular function in Java. Again, it's about to create something, this document itself, this Python document. Do I trust you, QDev? Of course, create the document. So it created the mainframe to Java agent. Again, it's going to create, to change the permissions and to execute it. I still trust it. And so you can see here, it's got some interesting bits. And it ran for migration strategies of one particular set of the code and technology stack recommendations for my migration. Now it's creating a modernized Python script. This is how you use it. And it's going to test it against some of the code that exists in a code base to make sure that A, it doesn't run without any bugs, and B, that it's efficient in what it's supposed to do in the output, for example, the text. Once it had validated everything, it considers that this task is done and then it can move on to the next task. Here, it created a README file for the modernization agent, and now it just runs down a resume of everything that has been done with the components that I created. So the mainframe to Java agent, the main agent class. Its role is to analyze the COBOL and suggest Java equivalents. Super useful in a migration. It generates Java skeleton code. So if you want to implement things yourself or in a specific way for your customer, you could do that. It has a modernized.py interactive CLI tool to analyze, generate, list, and guide you to the different options. And here are the key features with some example usage here at the bottom. So again, very cool. Within minutes, probably a little bit more time than earlier, 4 minutes, I would say, we're able to have an agent to help our development team and be super efficient in migration. All right. So if I go back to our presentation, here we go. What did we learn today about Amazon QDev? We learned essentially 3 things. Number 1, the first use case in which Amazon QDev is super useful is to retire technical debt at scale using the code transformation capabilities to modernize legacy applications with newer programming languages. Then we have utilizing Amazon Q to drive developer productivity all along that software development life cycles. This goes back to helping developers not just with the code itself, right, the inline code completions, but helping them to address every single stage of that life cycle. And amongst that, the security scanning, the unit test generation, the troubleshooting, the documentation generation, all of these things. And then finally, we have infrastructure provisioning, right? Amazon Q is trained to understand and help you with major infrastructure as code languages. So like CloudFormation, for example, CDK, or maybe Terraform if you're running something multi-platform. Amazon Q's knowledge of AWS infrastructure is super important, and it can help your infrastructure engineer create and manage infrastructure templates a lot faster than before. And so this is what I really, really like about QDev is that it's all over the place. It's every step of the way helping you in that software development lifecycle, not just on code suggestions, like many of the other coding assistants would today. And so that's what makes it, in my mind, a very, very useful ally. And so how do you get started with QDev, right? Well, there's two steps. Number one, as I mentioned, QDev by default is free. And so you can use the free version of that. And eventually, when you're ready to start building things or transforming applications from one version to another, let's start planning your POC, right? All right. I think I'm done for today. I don't have much more slides right on time, if I'm not mistaken. I think so. Yeah. Ooh, 58. Very good. All right. So let's run through some of the questions here. Amos was asking questions. Can we get credits for the agent and use it, then give feedback? There's a free version. We thought about this question ahead of time. Is it available in the students package? I think that's a great question. I think students should be able to use AWS in a student way, which is by not paying hundreds or thousands of dollars. But there are some really interesting lessons to learn with paying for the services that you run. For example, when you don't use it, turn it off. Hence the recommendations that were given earlier by Amazon Q developer to me for SageMaker. Can we apply it as students if available? I think, yeah, no, the student thing is a real thing that needs to be addressed from AWS more widely. There are some programs like Academy that provide credits, but you need to work with the university that is doing this. So yeah, it's a bit more complex, but ultimately you can start with a free version of Amazon QDev and iterate on. And when it reaches a point where you're like, cool, I'm able to do everything that I need, maybe there should be a way for you to get credits through the user group to build the next thing with Amazon QDev. Next question from Amos. I have a problem with Kiro. It's not launching to my default browser in my Linux OS. Lubuntu 24.04. Picking the default browser is, I believe, should be the thing. If you look for setting the default browser in Lubuntu or in Ubuntu, it shouldn't be too complex. And yes, Crispinus is right. Kiro recently introduced Kiro for startups, where startups are eligible technically for free Kiro up to a certain point. Do I have this somewhere? Oof. I think, yeah, here we go. Kiro Pro Plus Starter Credits. Yeah, here we go. So you got the link now. Mark, okay, no, Chris, okay. Ogembo asked, when using AWS Transform to modernize a .NET solution set for Windows, are there any benefits to switching to QDev after the complete transformation of making it cross-platform? Ooh, I like that. I guess from a unit testing or from a security part of things, yes. Understanding the code base, scanning it for security issues is probably something that is easy for QDev to do and maybe cost effective. Again, $19 a month versus doing it as a human. I don't know what would be another use case for that, but in my mind, yes, I think it will be super useful. Mark, you had your hand up.
Yeah. Yes. This question, I think once you transform like the mainframe, the code base, the old code base to the new one, is there a reason why maybe you went with .NET or Python specifically, or can QDev go through my code and say that, hey, this is a legacy application, we'd love to move it to a new framework maybe Next.js or something else? Can it also help with that? So that before I make a decision of I'm going from, PHP to maybe using Rust or something like that, that there's a reason why, these are the reasons why I would rather move it to Rust rather than Django or maybe Python and stuff like that. What does that look like? And lastly, how big is that code base, right? Is it like millions of code or thousands of code that it could just take 2 minutes or 3 minutes to do it? I think that was interesting.
SH, not SK. So we've got 13 megs of code in the COBOL code base that I showed you earlier. It went quite fast through it. And I think the way that, I'm suggesting Java for a COBOL replacement is that it's because it's an easy bridge, right? A lot of people have been already doing this kind of a translation. But maybe you could ask, that could be an interesting question to ask you. Let's try to do that here live. I haven't done this before. So what would be the best modern language to transition this application to? Primary recommendation, Java. Python is for rapid development, .NET, C# for your .NET skills, and cloud native approach, Go. Interesting. So again, it's giving you some recommendation by use case and then some strategy consideration as well, which I didn't ask for, right? But this is very, very cool here. I'm guessing, pardon me, you could ask more things around this, like maybe in terms of performance or in terms of cost of infrastructure to support the modernized application. Could be which what did I use? Which language, modern language would yield for the most cost efficient infrastructure to support? Haha, no surprises. Go would be the optimal choice. Then it's also suggesting Lambda and ECS EKS or EC2 with smaller instances. Very cool. So again, I'm not saying like it's the expert to have, because there may be some topics where, with generative AI becoming more and more part of the picture and adding complexity in some use cases, because there's no infrastructure, local infrastructure to run the code on for PII requirements, or maybe some kind of new requirements that were post the training stop date of Sonnet 4, which is used here. You are chatting with Claude Sonnet 4. Maybe this could be, you could have some surprises, but for things that are established for quite some time already, like in this case, mainframe applications, I think the recommendations are pretty good. Like maybe 100% what I would recommend myself. Matter of fact, Java was my first suggestion. It was its first suggestion as well. Go I didn't see coming, but it's a good observation as well. And so I think you can treat the information from this output as extremely valid for this use case, at least. Again, for more complexity, I would take grain of salt here and there to ensure that, this is indeed what's right. But by interacting with it, it's quite it makes sense. The answers that it's providing make a lot of sense. Did I answer your question correctly, Mark?
Yes, you did. Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Are there any other questions? Yes, Muad. In the demo, Q moved the code from PHP 5 to 8. Does Q always know the latest version to upgrade to? Excellent question, Muad. In the demo, I asked it specifically 8.3 but I believe the latest version of PHP is 8.3.2, something like this. So again, I specified 8.3. Yes, PHP 8.3. I could say 8.3.2, obviously not with the COBOL code, and it would do it. I could say 6 and it would do 6 as well. It just depends on, what your requirements are. But it does a really good job at maintaining the execution requirements very high in the priority list. So if you want to tell it which version you want, you can. If you want to just replace by the latest version of PHP, I believe it could do that as well. Actually, let's test that. PHP, okay, Q. And I'm going to ask it, convert it to the latest version of PHP. Nice repository. Sorry. Always the context is super important. And then I'm going to ask it in a minute to do that conversion for you, Muad. Please feel free to ask your questions. I don't bite at all. Plus, there's a screen between the two of us and a lot of distance. It makes it very complicated to do so if ever I was tempted. Sorry, it's the end of the week for me. It's very interesting. So convert it to the latest version of PHP, right? So it wrote 8.3 plus. It's using 8.3 plus instead of 8.3. I'm having doubts. Where is it going to check the latest version? I'm I'm still not sure, but probably it will do 8.3.2. Let's trust this one. I think one of the things that I omitted to mention in the previous conversion that we've done is that as it has upgraded the code to version 8.3 of PHP, it also maintained backward compatibility, which is extremely important in the sense that if you're thinking about this code as being part of a larger migration, then you're still able to use this code in the old environment and in the new environment. So here it says 8.3 plus. I don't know. Yeah. 8.3 modernization strict, constructor promotion, read only, name parameters, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, no, it just did a conversion here. So when we're blurry in terms of requirements, maybe it's a little bit less efficient. While maintaining complete API compatibility with PHP 5 version. Okay, all functionality has been preserved and modernized. Then it works. Ooh, what did I move? Yeah, maybe this one would be brighter on my face. Maybe even developers of PHP are using Kiro to improve it. So they use a cheap version of Kiro in some cases. Memory management 101. Sorry, that was a bad joke. So it should definitely know the latest version. Okay. I like that suggestion. All right. Any other questions for today? I think we're good, Mark.
Oh, we're good. Okay, great. Thank you very much, Nicholas. I think this was really amazing.
You're most welcome.
Yeah, this was really good. Thank you for having us and just showing us a few tricks on Amazon Q. I think I might just pay for the $19 and see how it would work if I can transition all my code to that. I think that would be really amazing. Beyond that, I don't know if there are any special announcements. I see Kevin is here, Muad is here. Biggest thing, I think I've seen Christmas talk about the Kiro win. Hopefully, I don't know if there's anyone trying it out. That would be really cool to see. I'm hoping to spin up and actually use it and see how it looks like. Congratulations to all the new cloud captains who are chosen. I don't know if they're here, but congratulations to you. And I think there's the next round of community builder applications coming up. I'm not sure when that is, but keep an eye on that. If you're going to apply to be a community builder, it'll be coming up soon. That would be really cool. Any other thing specifically? I think that's pretty much it. Adeline, unless there's something I'm missing or any other person who has an announcement to make, we're happy to do that. Then we can kind of call it a day. Yeah. Anyone? Hi, Adeline. There we go. Yeah.
Hi, Mark. Hi, Nicholas. Hi, everyone. Hope you're all well. I'm well on my end. I know this came short notice for Nicholas to do this presentation, but he's much informed. Yes, and thank you so much for really for accepting our invitation to the community. So there is the application, the way Mark has mentioned, for community builders. I think it's the early January next year, but I'll ask you guys to build content and just to be visible as much as the application is concerned. And also you can reach out to any one of us if you need guidance in that on how to apply and what are the requirements. Yeah. And I only know of one lady who managed to be part of the new cohort of the cloud captain. So officially KCA University have a cloud club. Yeah. And we are so glad because the community, the user groups have been so vast with helping them and also just to ensure that they're able to grow in terms of cloud computing and also the community space. So we have Wendy from KCA University, and so that is a plus. And I'll also be reaching out to her so that she can reach out to the other cloud captains so that they can align on most of the items or major events that are working together.
Yeah, pardon me.
Hmm?
There's also, I think, someone from Strathmore, maybe. There's someone from Strathmore, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. Yeah. So this, okay, you also have someone from St. Paul and Sego. Wow, okay. Okay.
Oh, that's cool. Awesome.
So that makes it 4 so far. So meaning the community is growing, and this is to David to come back to Kenya and meet the new community. Yeah. So other than that, this might be our last session this year, but subject to confirmation. We might have another early December, but we'll still update. Yeah. For those who are traveling to reinvent, Nicholas included, we wish you safe journey. Say hi to everyone who will be there. Yeah. Thank you. Not much from me. Back to you, Mark.
Yeah, I think what you could do one online selfie. So if you can switch on your camera, that'll be awesome if you can. Let me see. Yeah, this is let me see how do we do this. I haven't used Zoom in a while. So if you can switch on your cameras, I'm trying to change this to gallery. Let me see, perfect. Hi Jacob. Hi Peter, Gembo. I know Kevin is here, Muad, a bunch of other people. So if you can, we'll take one, then call it a day. Thank you very much, Nicholas, for having us. I think this has been really cool. Also, see, I think his final session is also up on the YouTube, and we'll have this recorded and up on YouTube with the relevant links that are there, so that you can be able to use it, and we can see what you can be able to do. Let me see. Okay, a few more people coming in. Hi, David. Let's see. Ismail, first means Christine. Okay. Last call. Let me taking screenshots. Perfect. I think I've taken a bunch of them. Also, I'd seen the feedback to David on his presentation. Please do that. Give him a shout out. But Nicholas, this has been really amazing. I don't know the last time you're in Kenya if you learned any Kiswahili words, but well, I think you know French and Arab. You can give us teach us some French or Arabic words, one or two. Then we'll teach you one Swahili word. I think we'll tell David or Kevin to give us like one Swahili word that we can teach you today. Yeah, go on.
All right. So in terms of in terms of French words, let's see. Cloud in English would be nuage in French. Um, so that's
Nuage.
If you're onto Twitter or if you're onto Instagram, this is first part of my handle because Cloud Ninja was taken. So all of a sudden I became Nuage Ninja. uh, what else could I teach you? Coffee is pretty universal. It's in French, it's café.
Uh-huh.
Tea, it's thé. So it's close to the English word. Um, Mm, 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 mm. Developer. It's
Okay,
very,
that's
very
kind of
close. There is
similar. Yeah.
not the same language, but practically very, very close.
Yeah, and maybe I'm interested. So in your work, do you also serve French customers also and Arabic and your multi, or do you mostly do English?
So it depends. It really depends.
Mm-hmm.
See, when I moved to, so I've been with AWS for 11 years. I moved to the Middle East 8 years ago, and
Mm-hmm.
I had never been to Bahrain, never ever, right? So I would land to this country that I see as a dot on the map, literally. And I see that it's surrounded by, other Arabic countries that are very well known. So I thought either I will be screwed, everybody will be speaking Arabic, and I will be, having to force learn Arabic, or everybody will speak English, and then Arabic will be like an alternative language, like a plan B situation, plan A situation. And turns out everybody speaks English in Bahrain, in UAE, in Qatar, in Saudi as well. Even like grandmothers and elderlies, they do speak perfect English. So it's shame on me. I didn't know this, and I didn't do any research on this, but very, very cool surprise. And then I do support, as I said, sub-Saharan Africa, but for some of my colleagues that support North Africa, sometimes the customers insist for the conversation to be in French or in French-speaking African countries like Senegal, for example. Sometimes the customer is saying, we want someone speaking French, and then I get involved in those conversations. But Arabic is really this much of the conversations that we're having with customers, maybe in specific countries like Egypt, for example, or Saudi in some cases. Um, but it's very little. Most of the conversations that we're having are in English.
Yeah, okay. I'll put Jacob on the spot. You can teach, I think, David, a Swahili word or two. Then I think we're kind of we're taking the pictures. Guys can leave at their own pleasure. Jacob, I don't know which Swahili word you want to teach.
To teach him Kiswahili. So to greet someone, you can say habari yako.
So can you repeat slowly for me, please?
Habari yako.
Habari yako.
Yes, habari.
Habari
To
yako.
greet someone.
Is
Then
that like
you answer.
greeting, or is it like a greet like a buddy's greeting? Is there like, because I don't know, maybe
It's like saying how are you?
Okay.
Habari yako.
Habari yako. Okay.
Yes. Then you answer by saying I'm good. So in Kiswahili you will say that vizuri, mzuri.
Missouri, like the state in the US, same sounding name.
You'll say mzuri.
So okay, Missouri.
Yes, mzuri.
Very
Habari
cool.
yako
Habari yako.
mzuri.
Missouri. I know a
Yes.
little bit of some numbers. I know Moja, Billy, Tatu. That's all I know from
Yeah,
Kenya.
yeah,
All right.
that's correct.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's cool. So, on your coming to Kenya, yeah, you can accelerate that now because you pretty much know Kiswahili and you're good to go. But once you start, you are ready to take on Nairobi, Mombasa, and all the other places. So, yeah, accelerate that tour to Kenya for sure.
Hopefully, very soon. Hopefully.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you very much for having coming through. Do have a lovely rest of the Saturday. Thank you for taking time to be with us today. So, have a good one, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.